release of a new DreamWorks movie, it's time I start ranking more of the DreamWorks franchises. Hello and welcome to Cinema, where we focus on a film. I'm Josh, this is Simply Cinema. Let me know down in the comments below how you would rank the Trolls franchise from your least favorite to your favorite. Do you like it as a whole, or is it sort of a misfire out of the DreamWorks animated films? And just let me know down in the comments below what franchise from DreamWorks you want me to rank next. Coming in last place, we have Trolls Band Together. Now, while this is a film that has a great, decent story for the nature of what it's doing with its theme, the brotherhood aspects, tackling family, tackling siblings, everything that's going about that is not only important for adults, but also for younger kids, taking care of one another, how they take branch and have this lost brotherhood that's going on within the band that he used to be in, and secrets that's all told in the past. But there's some moments that just really distract the story from having a through point by including the Bergens coming back from the first movie, and also Poppy, who they're obviously highlighting as one of the central roles throughout the franchise. But throughout this film, she unfortunately becomes a distraction, and while she's obviously her optimistic, positive self that continues to add to some elements of the lively parts of the movie, unfortunately she's quite a distraction from the main thing, and she conveniently has this desire out of nowhere that she's been wanting a sister all this time, and it's just only coming up. Obviously, it seems like there was no plan for this at all, and it happens to be in the movie where they're gonna say she does have a sister, but it comes out of nowhere with no superstitions for what all makes sense for the nature of the story. Yes, it can happen, but it just creates some distractions for the main brotherhood aspect that within that family does so much that the other parts of the film distract from. And at number 2, we have Trolls World Tour. Now, this is an interesting one. It has a familiar plot that feels very familiar to Avengers Infinity War, collecting the Infinity Stones, but in this case, it's the cultural representation of music, the 5 different types of music, collecting the strings. You're supposed to make one sound together, and there's nice elements exploring culture as a whole, the way they balance in one another, tackling back and forth these different themes. It can be a little silly as the nature of this franchise goes. There's some nice lively moments with what it does with the music, tackling and talking about all the ideas and values about how we can bond together. Now, some of the things can come construed because it's basically doing the things with talking only about music and not the values of religion, of different culture values, but at the same time, it goes around that basis. But there's some elements here and there that still sort of break up the moments that builds the momentum of the film as a whole, giving it a through point where there's this side plot with the other sort of troll that is trying to find his way, trying to find his purpose with why he stands out, why he looks so different than the other trolls within the community. That just throws things off balance. There's predictable moments that can just not do as much for what the film has to offer as a whole. It's a great soundtrack, there's great cultural moments, but all told, it's not necessarily the most energetic that catches my attention. But that leaves at number 1, we got Trolls. That really demonstrates the aspects of the colors, how it utilizes all the optimism from Poppy, introducing us to all the trolls as a whole, and the Bergens being a traditional villain that feels sensible for the nature of what's all going on with the plot, adding in some things and nice themes about judging people for how they look, other balances for the cultural ideals and optimism that does work effectively, but also having the right balance of pessimism that really works wonderfully to the nature of how things can all go about, and having Branch have this dark undertone to him that really undergoes a great character arc that may be the best of the franchise, how we're building up things so far, and building up different things and ideals that make sense for the nature of what it's doing with its story. Not only kind of approaching adults with something that they can attach to, but mostly kids in a way that teaches nice lessons, builds upon the cultural of humanity, having the nice color palette that really accentuates something that's great and cinematic for the nature of what you're doing for this kids and family movie. And the soundtrack is popping with a great element of surprise for the nature of how it integrates song within the story, building and making essential antidotes to what you're doing with the culture of the trolls, with the culture of the Bergens, and how that all builds up together, changing the villains as a whole and making sense of humanity and trollanity for what's all going on throughout the story. That really builds up some great moments, and especially going into the True Colors scene, that how they utilize that song in the bleak, dark scenery just does so much more to what this film has to say for its themes, how it builds and backs and forth with what it's tackling, for the elements, for the ideas, and how it's characterizing some tropes and ideas. But ultimately, it just effectively delivers on its message while having some great animation that really builds upon some of the characters. It's not necessarily something I go back to all the time, but revisiting just for the first time in preparation for this ranking, it was something that was surprising because of some of the bleak ideals that are integrated in with this lively environment, showing that optimism isn't always the highest key point, but you also don't want to lose hope in anything you're ever chasing after all. So that's just my ranking of the Trolls franchise from my least favorite to my favorite. Let me know down in the comments below how you would rank it. Do you like it, or do you not like this franchise quite as well? Let me know your favorite DreamWorks movies, and I have a ranking of the Kung Fu Panda franchise already, and I'll be getting the rest of the franchises ranked out there as we prepare to rank all 50 DreamWorks movies all told. So that's just all, and make sure to do yourself a favor and go watch a movie.